Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. For guys, I'm your ever-loving host, Shorty. This is one that I've been really looking forward to. It's Clayface, Celebrity Dirt, and there's a whole bunch of reasons why this one's been on my radar for a while. Starting off with the fact that the trailer for the new Clayface movie has dropped. It looks amazing. I love body horror kind of stuff, and I think on the back of Superman being full four-colour sci-fi superhero action, follow that with Supergirl, which is a little bit more grimy, a little bit more dingy, a little bit more sci-fi-ish, but still a hero book. Then going for horror, I think, is a very nice progression. Don't get me wrong, there's room for a whole bunch of other stuff in TV shows, but I'm looking forward to it. And I knew that this was going to be that kind of horror story, so I'm really looking forward to it. Add into the fact that it's Jude Elton S. Doyle is the writer on this one, and that was like a trifecta of just amazing reasons why I really want to check out this book. Because if you haven't been paying attention, on Blue Sky I do a running track of every single comic book I've read this year, and every single time I read a dead teenager's book, I will absolutely throw as much praise as I can towards the creator of this book. It is amazing, it's brilliant. It went from a really solid start to something that's genuinely going to be in my best of the year list, unless 27 other amazing books come out that knock it down. So I'm already on board. Unfortunately, this does run the risk of my expectations being a bit too high and being very hard to match. However, this is a very, very good job. As an issue 1, however, I am going to say there is a very minor issue. And I feel like it's one of those where your mileage will vary depending on who you are and what you expect out of an issue 1. Sometimes I really like a nice slow burn. I think it'd be really entertaining to spend a very long time with these characters and with the world and just get a sense of who they are, where they are, their relationships, the way that they're going to interact with the rest of the universe. I love that kind of thing. Other times what I want is straight to the point. I don't really have to worry about who these characters are. I feel like you can do a lot of that in backstory. There's times when you just really want to punch it and get the story off get, especially if it's only a mini series, you're not got that long, you want to grab people's attention very, very early. This managed to sit somewhere between those, and it doesn't quite do enough of either. There's a lot going on, but it feels slow, but not slow enough that I feel like I'm spending a long time in any particular concept. Kind of a frustrating to criticise, because it feels like I'm saying, well, you know, damned if you do, damned if you don't, but I feel like it could have chosen a lane a little bit better. That being said, some of the stuff it does is brilliant, and it looks amazing when it does it. We're going to talk about the art now. Fran Galan, I've not really encountered their work that much, I'm afraid, but I like it. The colouring, in particular, Del Pesh, I think, is on the colouring. I apologize if I've got those names mixed up and go very basic notes. It means we do get a really nice horror story, very gruesome, very dark and messed up, lots of over-the-top monster kind of stuff, and really sinister things happening on page, but the colour palette used and the colouring choices made means we very rarely get it like just nothing but darkness and shadow. It's not trying to be that kind of horror. It is very in your face. You're supposed to engage with it. You're supposed to see the horrifying thing that's there. Because in terms of horror, I think it does brilliantly is it managed to do two things together. Two bits of horror which, don't get me wrong, on their own I like, but when you can match them together, it is brilliant. This is basically creature feature, giant monster, terrifying thing, and body horror at the same time. One of the most famous examples of this one, and one I'll always go back and reference because it is a genuinely outstanding film, is The Fly. And when I went into this comic book expecting that kind of thing, I'd seen some preview pages, I know what you can get away with doing with Clayface. There's a reference in universe to Brundle, and I was like, yeah, brilliant. 5 out of 5. Just like a round of applause, take a bow. That was just wonderfully done. It's not like particularly subtle if you know what you're looking for, but if you do know what you're looking for, you've got to appreciate the moxie there. That was just great. But it does do both of those horror aspects very, very well. Unlike The Fly, which is basically body horror leading up to the reveal of the monstrosity of the what's the word? People use it to grotesque. People use it to describe things that happen in the absolute Batman series at the moment. This is a little bit more, the monster is always there. Clayface is, it's not like you can build up suspense by not knowing who Clayface is. He's an established character. People know he's lucky. He's right there on the cover. So we get the monstrosity of it, the grotesque of it very early on. And then we get the creepiness coming in, the unusual bits of body horror, the playing around with what Clayface can do, taking over bodies in ways that feel far more invasive than I was expecting. I'm used to, in my head, this idea of like, deal with the person and then replicate them so you can be them. This feels like it's going into some much darker places in terms of what consent means and how dangerous it is to push into that kind of thing. But it's a horror story, and I like that it's going there. There's also some nice bits, like we get one character who very much feels like he's the performative nice guy. I got that vibe very early on from him because, well, Jude Doyle does write feminist works, so it makes perfect sense. And then you get some really nice payoff at the end, so it's like, good, it's not just me reading something there that wasn't there. This is like him putting some coding in there and getting a really nice payoff. All in all, so many things to like about it. The pacing, I think, could have been marginally better, but that's a minor criticism. The rest of it, absolutely brilliant. Can't wait for the rest. That's it for now, though. Until I see you all again, look after you, everyone. Stay safe. Bye!